They called her Cadet 217, the nameless designation stamped into her shoulder tag when she arrived on the training station orbiting Farax Prime. Among the 100 new recruits in the Intergalactic Defense Legion, she was the only human. Small, quiet, eyes like frozen thunderclouds and skin pale from years under Earth's thinning ozone. The other cadets, mostly from the Drenari, Voct, and Lectin species, towered over her. Her frame was lean, almost fragile-looking compared to bulk of genetically enhanced warriors bred from centuries of military tradition. When the Lectin instructor saw her, he grunted something in his guttural tongue that translated loosely to flesh twig. The others laughed. She didn't. She simply stared, unreadable. The simulation was announced during orientation. Combat Readiness Trial, Level 5 Hostility. It was a tradition to weed out the weakest, often with pain, sometimes with death, though they masked it behind phrases like control casualty rate. The trial dropped cadets into a rotating death world simulation, complete with rogue drone enemies, ambush predators, and one golden rule. Survive for 1 standard hour. Teams would be randomized. Success was measured not in kills, but in staying alive. Cadet 217 was dropped into zone at 0700. By 0702, the first enemy had fallen. The recording showed it in haunting clarity. A Voct cadet had charged a 4-legged drone, a tracker variant meant to disable, not kill, but got pinned beneath its razor limbs. Before anyone else could act, the human had sprinted forward. She didn't shout, didn't pause. She dove, jammed a shattered metal fragment from a down supply crate into the drone's optic port, and twisted until sparks flew. 1 enemy down. 1 life saved. 1 minute. 58 seconds. By minute 4, 2 more drones fell. She scavenged parts from their husks, quickly fashioning a shiv, some wire traps, and crude armor on her forearms. She didn't talk. She just moved. Calculated. Precise. Her team followed her lead, without even knowing when that shift had happened. "She's too aggressive," said Instructor Tharks, watching from the control room with narrowed eyes. "She'll burn out before the first quadrant ends." But she didn't. At the 15-minute mark, her team, designated Blue Squad, was the only group still with all members alive. Not because they were all strong. In fact, 3 were among the lowest-ranking cadets. They lived because she had killed every threat before it reached them. Predator vines that moved like living spears were caught in traps she laid with wire and bark. Drones that descended from the canopy were taken down by thrown shrapnel, precise to the millimeter. Her movements were silent, surgical. Death rode in her shadow. At 22 minutes in, the simulation escalated. Hostile AI inserted combat mechs, a test normally saved for the top 10 survivors. This was no accident. They wanted to break her. The mech towered over her, 9 feet tall, armed with rotary plasma blades and heat-tracking missiles. The Lectin cadet beside her froze. Another panicked and bolted, only to be caught mid-run by a secondary drone. Torn apart before he could scream, she didn't run. She took off in the opposite direction, grabbing a plasma cell from the down drone. While the mech locked onto the Lectin's heat signature, she circled through the tree-line, scaling the twisted alien roots until she was above its shoulder. Timing had to be perfect. The simulation wasn't programmed to be fair. She dropped from above, slamming the overloaded plasma cell directly into the mech's fuel port. The detonation shook the trees. She rolled free, just as it exploded. The Lectin cadet stared at her, eyes wide with disbelief. She didn't speak. By the 30-minute mark, they stopped calling her Cadet 217. They called her Death Maiden. The name spread like a virus through the simulation observers, officers, instructors, and even a high command liaison. At first, it was a joke. Then it wasn't. Every kill she made was recorded. Every calculated risk, every life saved. By 40 minutes, her team had made it farther into the simulation zone than any squad in years. The traps became crueler. Sub-zero shock fields, acid-spitting insects, psychological warfare drones mimicking voices of lost loved ones. The Lectin cadet, now limping from a wound, broke down when one of the voice drones began mimicking his mother. He dropped his weapon, begged for release. It took a full 7 seconds before the Death Maiden put a round through the drone's processor. Then she stood in front of the lectern, silent, waiting until he steadied his breath. Her eyes said what her mouth never did. Get up? He got up. At 53 minutes, the final challenge arrived. A stealth reaper. Not a simulation, but a live combat drone repurposed for training. It was nearly invisible in motion, programmed to hunt the strongest heat source and kill silently. Most instructors assumed she'd fall here. They were wrong. She baited it. She took a heat rod from her armor and stabbed it into her own thigh, raising her body 10 by 10 degrees and lighting her up on every sensor. Then she stood in a shallow pit, covering herself in wet dirt and coolant gel. The Reaper lunged. Missed. She jumped, twisting midair, and jammed a shard of her armor into its vent. The Reaper twitched once and fell. By hour 1, 23 confirmed kills. 0 squad deaths. When the simulation ended, the instructors stood in silence. Even the hard-faced Vok general muttered something that loosely translated to Stormborn. She limped out of chamber, soaked in dust and dried coolant, blood on her leg and dark rings under her eyes. As she passed the observation deck, cadets and instructors alike stood aside. One Drenari whispered, "Death Maiden." She heard it, didn't respond, but something behind her eyes shifted. In the weeks that followed, stories spread like wildfire. They said she once slept with her eyes open, hands folded across her chest like a war statue, that she never ate in public, only consumed nutrient packs in silence, that her blood had mutated from some earth toxin, giving her nerves that couldn't register fear. None of it was true, but she didn't correct them. What was true was this. When a rogue mercenary cell attempted to hijack the orbital station, she didn't wait for orders. She killed 3 invaders before reinforcements arrived. When asked why she acted without clearance, she simply said, "They were inside the perimeter." The High Command watched. Quietly, carefully. She was transferred to Black Division, the Legion's elite strike force. Not because she applied. She hadn't. She didn't ask for honor. But when they offered, she accepted. She never wore the medals they gave her, but she kept the name. Not officially. Her tag still read 217, but everywhere she walked, every soldier, every alien, every terrified opponent called her by one name, Death Maiden. And by then, they all knew what it meant. Not death in the poetic, distant way. No, it meant you were being hunted. It meant she had seen you, and she was already calculating how you'd die.